I'm in Amsterdam and I'm with Geanne van Arkel, who's the Head of Sustainable Development at Interface EMEA. What is Interface and what does Interface do?
We are actually making connections between people and the buildings they work and live in through the floor. We are the inventor of the carpet tile.
Interface has been working on a program, as I understand, to reclaim discarded fishing nets from the sea and turn them into products that you sell. Tell me more about that.
This problem of wasted fish nets is not only affecting biodiversity at sea, but also is affecting people in their first livelihood. And so we started back in 2012 a pilot project in the Philippines, now working around 40 communities, and people there, fishermen, are now not only fishing for fish but also fishing for wasted fish nets and sell that as a supply for our carpet tiles to our yarn supplier. And with the money they get, they can save for future investments, for education for their children, but they also restore their own environment.
So what other initiatives is Interface involved with that excite you?
One of the biggest issues of this time is actually climate change. So we have been thinking and discussing with our advisories on sustainability, and they see possibilities if we start to learn from nature and are working in a circular way with a low carbon footprint, as we have been proving that this is already possible. Can't we then actually reverse climate change by living zero, having a low carbon footprint, but also using carbon, excess carbon, as a building block? We actually already even have a prototype with 2 kilograms, minus 2 kilograms CO2 per square meter. So we were thinking, you know, when we started back in the 90s, it's really ambitious to have products with a very low carbon footprint, but actually we can make them with a negative carbon footprint. So there's actually a next mountain. We always refer to our journey, I would say, as a kind of mountain, because we have a very clear goal, but there are multiple ways to get there. But we already see a next mountain and then coming up, and we are actually quite excited to climb that one.
I asked a lady called Fiona Reynolds, who was the ex-Director General of the National Trust and the author of this book, The Fight for Beauty, and she talks about actually after the Second World War there was a period of time where there was quite a lot of what we call joined up thinking, which in a way is what I think you're kind of talking about in many ways. It doesn't have to be a very siloed approach. You can be mindful of what it is you're making and the consequences of what you're making, but also thinking about other effects, either negative or beneficial as a consequence of that.
We have the need to zoom in, but we actually zoom in too much, or at least we forget to zoom out again. And therefore we might be solving problems, but actually accidentally are creating other problems again. The fish nets, for example, you know, it's great that we have a mean to repurpose them, but on the other hand, they shouldn't be there. And if we then look at nature, there's, for example, a dolphin that creates a fish net with air bubbles and catch fish, and they are catching fish in this way. So there's so much to learn from nature if you talk about beautiful designs.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, of course, Nature's Playbook has been around for a very long period of time, and I always quite like that observation that, in fact, nature wastes nothing.
It always has a purpose or a function.
Exactly, exactly. So, in many respects, I agree with you that if businesses actually were to look at themselves more in that way, actually they would become much better performing businesses as a consequence.
Absolutely, that's our experience as well.
It reminds me actually of the CEO Tim Mead, who runs the largest organic dairy farm in the UK. Running his farm on an oil-based business actually made it very volatile. He said in 1 week I could get 2 phone calls. One was actually that the price of oil had gone up by 50%, and the supermarkets were on the phone saying they only wanted half of our milk this week. And he said, of course, I couldn't turn the cows off like that. He said, whereas actually running the farm organically allowed us to bring a lot more financial stability into the business. It's kind of like isn't that common sense?
You are using the words I often feel I should use. It's actually more or less common sense, but one way or another it seems that we have been forgotten about it. And then when you again look at nature, you know, also in nature there are far more diverse solutions. So we tend to optimize but only in one way, which makes you indeed more vulnerable. And if you have a more spread, because I also hear farmers here in the Netherlands, you know, they first were producing solely milk and then they switched to indeed organic farming and they make cheese and all kind of dairy products, and they actually get a far more higher price point for their products, a better income and a better life for their animals. So, you know, there is this win-win-win situation.
When we met earlier this year at the symposia, which was held here in Freedom Lab, we, I think, looked at one particular question, which the question was, can beauty scale? Because of course, again, many cynics will go, well, of course, that's all right on a very small scale, but when you're really talking about the big stuff, is it possible for companies to be ethical, environmentally friendly, and profitable all at the same time?
There's no choice. Companies have to. We have to. I think the only way you will have a license to exist as a company is to run your business in an ethical, environmentally friendly, social way. There's this model of Hart and Milstein, which I always like to refer to, about creating sustainable value. If you are not able to address social and ecological issues, as indicated through the Sustainable Development Goals now, then what is your point being there? You know, our founder, Ray Anderson, said it very beautifully. There's actually, if you think that businesses are solely there to make a profit, then think again.
I completely agree. So my last question, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope?
In this world of ugliness at the moment.
Yeah. I have an optimistic perspective, and if I compare when I started to work for Interface 15 years ago in 2003, there were not that many people and companies involved in sustainability, and when you look in the world today, there are so many persons, individuals, organizations embracing circular economy, bio-based economy, inclusive economy, performance-based economy. I actually don't care which word we are using, as long as we all are in it for the right purpose. And I see really people, really increasement in the movement. Maybe it's not that yet visible yet on large scale, but we are really reaching this tipping point of actually far more maybe smaller initiatives, wider spread, but therefore actually more powerful even. And for sure, large companies can really make a difference because they are that large. On the other hand, many small initiatives is actually a very nature smart strategy to actually evolve for the better.
Geanne, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.